All right. Money inside the system, 8 years, $76 million. We'll get to the Jones contract here in a second. But what do you make of the trade and what Columbus was able to get in exchange for Seth Jones?
I was shocked that Columbus were able to do what they do in the deal. And I say that with credit to them. Seth Jones, I believe, had given 3 teams that he would consider signing long-term with. One of them was Chicago, and the others were Dallas and Colorado. And we knew that Colorado wasn't going to be able to do it. The Avalanche had made it known that they would be willing to consider 1 year of Jones. Mm-hmm. They would be willing to do it for the last year of his current deal, but they couldn't do it long term. They had too many things going on. So they were never really an option. Dallas, I think, considered it, but there were a couple of things there. For them to make the deal, they probably would have had to subtract an NHL player off their roster. I don't know how crazy they were about that, and I'm not sure that Columbus was even crazy about taking any players. So that's number one. Number two, I don't think Dallas, the extension is 8 times 9.5. I don't think Dallas was willing to do that. I don't think they were willing to go higher than Heiskanen. Heiskanen signed 8 times 8.45. I'm not convinced they were willing to go higher than him on Jones. So I know Dallas's name was out there in rumors. A couple people told me, after the deal came down, they were never close. Like, it was never at a point where anybody really thought he was going to Dallas. So Chicago initially, as we talked about a couple weeks ago, the first ask was Doc and or DeBrincat, possibly both. And, obviously that wasn't going to happen. And then, I think Columbus realized that, Chicago was really motivated to do it. Chicago was really the big extension. So then it was grind time. It was, they had to work with them to get things done. And I have to tell you, they did better than I thought they were going to do. I think they liked Kurashev because he's center winger and they're always looking for centers. But I think Chicago said they really didn't want to do him. And Columbus fought for Boquist, and they got him. And considering all the extra picks they got, I have to tell you, I thought they did unbelievably well, the Blue Jackets. Much better than I thought they were going to do.
I could have seen Kurashev part of that deal. I could have seen someone like Lucas Reichel.
I heard Chicago didn't want to move Kurashev.
What about Lucas Reichel? Did that name come up at all?
It came up. I heard the name Kurashev, and some people said to me he's on the no-fly list. So, I'm assuming that they didn't want to trade Reichel, but I never specifically heard it one way or the other.
It's interesting that you mentioned Dallas because this sort of coincides with the name John Klingberg getting out there a little bit. Mm-hmm. And you wonder if that would have, and this is sort of all under the light of Dallas with their offer, which I believe was 4 times 4 for Jamie Alexiak. He ends up going to Seattle for more money and longer term than the 4 years. So to me, that sort of made a little bit of sense. Like, okay, if you're going to put Klingberg out there, you're going to lose Alexiak. Seth Jones slides into that spot, but to your point, the 9.5 wasn't going to happen in Dallas. The question that I have, and I think that many people have about Seth Jones in Chicago is, what does this mean for the rebuild? Now, normally I look at rebuilds and I say the goal of a rebuild is to try to get good players. And Seth Jones, despite how the analytics community may feel about him right now being on the decline in his career, is a good player. This is why I really didn't mind, the Rangers. We're starting a rebuild and we're getting Artemi Panarin. I understood that. Does this feel the same as the Rangers going through a rebuild and grabbing Panarin? The idea that Chicago is going through a rebuild here, a lot of it's going to be around Doc and DeBrincat, and they grab 26-year-old Seth Jones.
I think what it says to me is they're trying to speed it up. And I think they're going to look in goal. The Marc-Andre Fleury thing, I don't think it's anywhere right now, but I think they were interested. And there's something interesting going on there in Vegas. I think there was someone who was interested in Leonard, and it might have fallen apart. I'm not exactly sure what happened there.
New Jersey.
But I think so, but I don't know it.
Okay.
I think so, but I don't know it. There was something. It didn't happen. New Jersey seems to be the one that makes the most sense, but I can't say it with 100% certainty. I think Chicago is going to be looking for a goalie. I just think they're going to try to accelerate this a bit.
So then, Elliot, from the Columbus point of view, the rebuild is on?
Oh, is it ever? First of all, I thought Jake Bean was a really good gamble.
Big time.
The one thing I like about the Blue Jackets is if they say they're doing something, they don't kind of dip their toe in the water, eh?
Mm-hmm.
It's a 9-foot cannonball from the top of a cliff or something like that. Like all the water goes flying in every direction. They're decisive. And John Davidson now, he's the voice and he's the face of it. And Jarmo Kekalainen can just work and say, okay, now I'm going to do it. And you think about all the guys. Like, it's amazing when you think about it. Nick Foligno's gone. Dubois is gone. Tortorella's gone. Seth Jones is gone. Cam Atkinson is gone. And Atkinson was supposedly the happy face of the franchise, right?
Yeah.
You know, this week he's doing promotions about what a great place it is, and all of a sudden he's gone. And I basically think that Columbus just said, if we're going to rip the Band-Aid, we're going to rip the Band-Aid. You know, the one guy who's kind of still there, who's a big piece, is Werenski. I think they've been asked about him, and, you know, we'll see if that goes anywhere or that just stays.
You know, all those names you just mentioned, and there are a few others you can throw in, whether it's Bobrovsky, whether it's Panarin, and see how far back you want to go.
But those were decisions that were made for them. These are decisions they made.
All the decisions that they made, you put those guys on a team, are they better than Seattle?
It's a really good team.
That's a good team that essentially Columbus has just handed away. How do you see the Voracek-Atkinson deal?
Well, we knew that Voracek, they were talking about a change of scenery, right? You know, I got to tell you, I was surprised. I was really surprised from Columbus's point of view, just because I thought that, like I said, you know, Cam Atkinson was kind of like the happy face of the franchise. He was Mr. Columbus. He signed there once and really at the time took a below market deal to stay there. Mm-hmm. He could have done better on the open market, but he really liked it there. And he's one of those guys that's always, he plays hard and he's not easy to play against, but he looks like Captain Happy all the time, right?
He does.
So when word about that started to reach on Saturday afternoon, I was really, really shocked. I think basically that's what it was. Columbus just said, if we're going to do it, we're committing to it. And I think a lot of that is Philly too. I think in Philly's case, they really hated their mix last year. They felt chemistry-wise, it absolutely did not work out. And to me, the most interesting thing about what Philly said was there were some players who were unhappy with the coaching staff. And Chuck Fletcher has backed his coaching staff and said, nope, it's the player mix we're going to change. And if you heard his interview on NHL Network on Saturday, and he talked about Carter Hart, he just said, look, we were terrible defensively. We didn't make this job any easier on him because we were so bad defensively. Well, that's on the coaches and the players to fix. But in terms of the chemistry mix, you know, Ristolainen has a great reputation for caring. Atkinson has a great reputation for caring. He's gone after guys who have good reputations as demanding but caring teammates. When I look at this deal, I look at it as Philly saying, this is the kind of player we want to target. And Voracek, we just feel it's time. And to me, that's how I think this one kind of went down.